Hey guys, my name is Quori-Tyler, aka QT, aka Books with QT, and in today's video, we're doing my November wrap-up and December TBR. Also, happy Vlogmas! Very festive today. If you guys saw my gift guide, you know that I'm obsessed with anything kind of Christmas headband vibes. Right now, I'm giving very much Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But yeah, I feel like it's just so fun for Vlogmas. I've been loving doing all of my BOOKMAS, Vlogmas videos and content. I hope you guys have been enjoying it. It's literally only day 3. But with that being said, let's talk about all the books that I read in November. Look at my little friend, he's so cute. His name is Carmelo because he's a melon. Okay, so in November, I read a total of 8 books, 3 romance, 2 fantasy, 2 mystery thriller, 1 holiday, and out of those 8 books, I DNF'd 1. It honestly was a pretty good month of reading. I feel like I got back on track of putting a book down and then picking up a next one right away, where throughout the summer and a little bit of the fall, I felt like I wasn't reading as much because I would read 1 book and then take 3 weeks before I started my next one, but I'm back on my trajectory of just like reading. I only have 8 more books left before I hit my reading goal of 50 books for the year. And so I'm glad I read 8 in November because that means I can do the same thing and read 8 in December and hopefully hit that goal. I will be so excited if I hit 50 books. Haven't been reading as much this year as I do normally, but I would be really excited to at least hit 50. Okay, so let's just hop into the books. I was kind of reading these 2 books in tandem, one on my Kindle and one in a physical form. Let's start with the novel Love Story because this is actually also the book that I DNF'd this month. I got about, I want to say I got like right before 50% of the book and decided, actually no, I got past 50% for sure. I don't know exactly where I got to because I was reading it physical and on my Kindle and audiobook. I was doing anything I could to try to get through this book and I seriously just was not loving it. It was also my book club's book of the month. We have a Discord book club. We pick 1 book a month and talk about it at the end of the month. And it was a really fun discussion because I feel like a lot of people had similar opinions to me. More people finished it than I did, but I was just going through the book and realizing that I wasn't having a good time. The 7-Year Slip is one of my favorite books that I read last year, so I had very high expectations going into this, and maybe that's why I didn't hit my expectations. It wasn't a bad book by any means, it just didn't grab my attention. The plot of it is that this girl goes into her favorite book series town, and she becomes a part of the book, like she's in the book. I thought I would really like it because obviously every book lover would want to go into their favorite book, but when she was in there, I was like, maybe I wouldn't want to go into my favorite book. I found it weird that she knew about these people's lives like on a deep and intimate level, but then she was meeting them for the first time, but also knowing about them. And I know it's all fake and fictional, whatever, but it still felt like I felt weird reading it. Like she was fangirling over these people that she's now neighbors with. I don't know. It was just, usually I'm okay with magical realism and I can dive into it. But with this one, I couldn't bring myself to believe what was happening in here. So I did DNF it, but again, not a horrible book. Some people might like it. Some people did love it on our Discord book. And while I was reading that, I was also reading on my Kindle The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. It's about this girl who's a serial online dater. So she does a lot of online dating and then she finally finds someone that she thinks might be the one, but then he has some like weird things going on with him, and it's also told in dual perspective, also 2 different timelines, and the 2 different timelines are the 2 different perspectives. What I will say about this book is that the end, I was not prepared for the end. I really like Frida McFadden. This is not necessarily my favorite one, but I wouldn't say it's my least favorite. I think the plot twist was really good and I did not expect it. The whole time throughout the book, I was like, okay, it could be this person could have done this and this and this and this. And I felt like I was connecting dots. And then at the end, you really feel like that build up, like, oh yeah, I figured it out. Then she throws in that plot twist. Absolutely crazy. I was eating up every single page. I finished this book so fast, like I do every Frida McFadden book, because it was just that good. Up next, I needed to pick up another good romance, and so I read Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I read the whole Chestnut Spring series a few months back, and like, seriously, those characters live in my heart. Like if I was in the novel Love Story and had to go to my favorite book town, I'd probably go to Chestnut Springs because I just love those characters so much. So I was excited to get into another Elsie Silver book. And this one seriously did not disappoint. I am wondering if the Wild Love and this whole series, what's it called? The Rose Hill series. I wonder if this is going to become my new favorite series from her, because I liked this book better than any book I think that I read in the Chestnut Spring series, besides Powerless. Powerless was really good. The whole Rose Hill series is a single dad trope series, so every single book is going to have single dads in it. And I had never read a book like that, but this one was done really well. I really liked the child, or the kid, that we had in this one. The love story was believable to me. It was kind of like second chance, but also friends to lovers. They grew up together and now are coming back into each other's lives later on. And I always love that kind of trope. Like, give me any kind of friends to lovers or second chance or growing up with each other kind of trope, and I will seriously eat it up. And that I did. I really enjoyed this book, and I cannot wait to get to Wild Eye. All right, you guys, then I started a new 5-star series for myself. We got into the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I started with Once Upon a Broken Heart and then read Ballad of Never After. Gosh, wow. Stephanie Garber, there's something in her writing that I'm seriously addicted to and cannot get enough of. If you don't know about the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, kind of goes in tandem with the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber, which I did not read. That's what has been holding me back from starting Once Upon a Broken Heart, because I know that some people say, like, absolutely you need to read Caraval before going into this, but every single time I try to pick up that Caraval book, I just cannot do it. I'm so bored, and I couldn't get into it, but I've been really wanting to get into Once Upon a Broken Heart because I had a feeling it would be a book that I really loved, and that ended up being true. Let's talk about what these books are. So Once Upon a Broken Heart follows our female main character, Evangeline Fox, and she basically is a hopeless romantic, but the love of her life is about to marry someone else, so she strikes a deal with the Prince of Hearts in order to stop the wedding from happening. But like in most fantasies, when you strike a deal with any kind of fae, fairy, or whatever, it comes at quite a cost. And so in the first book, we're kind of going through what she has to do to pay him back. This book ends on quite the cliffhanger, and so I immediately needed to pick up the Ballad of Never After. I actually read it on my Kindle and then ended up ordering the book because I love it so much. I need to have this full box series with me. And then the Ballad of Never After, obviously I'm not going to say too much about it because if you haven't read the first book, I don't want you to know what's happening in this one, but I will say the love story develops a little bit more in here, and we have sort of an enemies to lover type vibe, and I just have to say I'm absolutely obsessed with Jax. He is perfect, he is beautiful, he is everything that I need in a male main character in a fantasy book. The ending of this, we're going to talk about it later when I get to my December TBR, but I need to read A Curse for True Love, which is the third book, immediately. That's all I'm really going to say about these books. I have reading vlogs on my channel from this past month where I read both of these books. So then we went back to my Kindle and I read Killer Instinct, which is the second book in the Natural series, which is a series I've been loving and I've really been trying to hold on to and squeeze it out as much as I can. This one was pretty good. I will say it didn't captivate me as much as the Naturals did. I think the plot of the Naturals was a lot crazier because we were just being introduced to these characters and kind of what their problems were. At the end of the book, you kind of see it all come together. And then that leaves you on a little bit of a plot twist, but I think that plot twist is going to be kind of tangled into the rest of the series from what I hear, and then it all wraps up in the last book. Sorry, if you don't know about the Naturals, it's a YA mystery thriller series about these, I think it's 6 teenagers that are in high school that have these natural abilities, and it's not necessarily any kind of like fantasy or they have powers or anything like that, but they have the ability to read people. So some people are able to easily detect lies, other people are able to profile serial killers really well. The FBI is secretly using them in their program to solve cold cases, but of course these are super smart kids that try to end up solving the cases that are ongoing, and sometimes they get in trouble for that and other times they actually help. So it's fun seeing that whole dynamic. But yeah, I'm excited to get to the third book of that series as well. Then we read The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center, and this was such a pleasant surprise. I won't say pleasant surprise because I didn't have any expectations. I had never read a Catherine Center book, but I had heard good things. So this book is about 2 screenwriters who kind of have opposite paths. Our female main character is a screenwriter who hasn't really gotten any traction and hasn't been able to pursue her dreams as much because her father is sick and she takes care of her dad. But she has dreams and aspirations of becoming an even bigger screenwriter because she is really good and talented. Then our male main character is kind of on the opposite end, where he's a famous screenwriter, where all of his scripts get picked up to become TV shows and movies. So Emma ends up living with Charles because she is tasked to help him fix his rom-com that he wrote, because she writes a lot of rom-com. He never writes rom-com, but he was asked to as a part of some contract he did or something. And the rom-com he wrote was absolutely horrible, horrendous. Like, no one would ever pick it up. So his manager, who is also Emma's friend, decided to bring Emma in and have her fix up the script. So they have to end up working together, even though he's pretty reluctant about that. Wow, there's some deep things that go on in this book that made me cry. Again, I have a reading vlog where I'm reading this, and you can see my honest, raw reactions of me crying to this book. But then a lot of it is so lighthearted, and the two characters are so funny, and their banter is amazing. So that was really fun to, I was gonna say watch, because I felt like I was watching a literal rom-com. And there's a lot of dialogue, so if you're someone who loves a lot of dialogue, this is gonna be the book for you. And then last but not least, we decided to start getting into the Christmas spirit, and I read All I Want Is You by Fallon Ballard. Another one that was a very pleasant surprise. I did not expect to like a holiday book as much as I did. And this one is about two romance writers. Our male main character, he writes romance, but all of his romance books have not happy ending, which, as you may or may not know, is a big controversy in the romance category, because romances are supposed to end with a happy ending, and because his don't, a lot of the other writers feel like he should not be in the romance category, i.e. our female main character, who does write romance. This is similar, kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, to the rom-commers. She writes true romance. She's a really good writer, but she doesn't have as much traction, and she hasn't been as popularized as our male main character. But then they actually come together to write a romance book together. Also, it's second chance romance and enemies to lovers, because they used to date. Once Nick started to become famous, they actually broke up. And the Christmas vibes are really strong with this one, because they are snowed into a hotel where they literally can't leave. There's no other rooms. They have to room together. So those were the 8 books that I read in November. Like I said, that was a pretty good reading month for me. But now let's get to my December TBR. All right, we have all the books I want to read right here. We're gonna start with this book because I'm actually in the middle of it right now. I'm about 140 pages in, and it's How My Neighbors Stole Christmas by Megan Quinn. This is a book club book for us for our Discord. And this one is really fun because we have a small town romance. There's some Christmas wars going on where I think it's about 5 people competing against each other to see who can be the holliest, jolliest person in the town. Our female main character is Story, male main character is Cole, and Story and Cole are both obviously in the competition, and their main objective in the competition, because they hate each other so much, is to win so that the other person doesn't win. And it's really been fun seeing them kind of go through each competition. There's like an eggnog competition, a tree decorating, I think, like these different things where they have to outshine each other. And it's funny because they actually hate each other, so behind the scenes they're like doing all this manipulative things and then showing as if they're like the most festive. Truly, anytime I'm not reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get back to my book and read it. So yeah, highly recommend. I really like Megan Quinn's writing. This is my first time reading her, but I'm excited to finish this one in December. Then we have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver, and like I told you guys, in November I read Wild Love, absolutely ate it up. I've heard mixed reviews online about this one. So in this book, Weston is a horse trainer in this small town, obviously Rose Hill, and Skylar Stone is a famous country singer who comes to this town after having a little bit of bad press. And then to go back to Wild Love, in Wild Love we have Grant, who has a recording studio. He's like a billionaire, has this amazing recording studio in Rose Hill. And so I believe that Skylar is going to be one of Grant's clients that comes in to record like a new album or something like that. And so she comes in and obviously meets Weston, who is the dad of 2 kids. And I guess we're gonna see how their lives intertwine, even though she's a big country singer and doesn't necessarily want to settle down in a small town. But I have an inkling that she's going to want to by the end of this book. Then we have A Winter's Wish by Emily Stone, another Christmas book. This one sounds pretty interesting. So our female main character, Lexi, dad dies and she hasn't spoken to him in 10 years, but she finds out that he actually left her his business, which is like a holiday vacation planning business. Only twist is he left it in the hands of her and this other guy that he worked with, his like young deputy, they say. I don't know what that means. The twist is they can only own the company if they work together for a year and it succeeds, I guess. I'm interested to see what the deal is with her dad and why they didn't talk for 10 years and how she kind of grapples with the fact that he died after not talking to him for so long, but he left her this company. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. And then of course the love story of like that workplace romance, almost like forced proximity because they're forced to work together. Interested to see about this book. Then we have The Curse for True Love, which need I say more, the last book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. So I am sad to read this because I don't like for things to end, but I absolutely need to know what ends up happening. And the last book I want to read in December is The Wedding People by Alison Espach. I've never heard of this author, but this is the Read with Jenna book of the month or book of the year or something like that. I've been seeing this book everywhere, and what really drew me in, I'm not gonna lie, is the cover. I think that is such a beautiful cover, but I honestly was drawn in by the back of the book and the description it gives. So we have Phoebe Stone, who shows up in Newport, Rhode Island to kind of get away. She has no bag, no plans, no nothing. She just ends up at this hotel, which is actually a hotel that a big wedding is happening at, and she's mistaken as one of the wedding guests. But then she runs into another Phoebe who is actually the bride of the wedding, and that Phoebe seems like she's kind of a bridezilla. Maybe she's planned for everything bad that can go wrong. However, everything bad keeps going wrong. And then the two Phoebes end up confiding in each other, and even though they're on opposite sides of the spectrum, it seems like the one Phoebe is a little bit messy and all over the place, while the other one is very structured and maybe a little more OCD. Let me help you. My dog wants to say hi. Say hi, Dream, to the people. He's so cute. What book do you want to read this month? Okay, back to the book. So the two Phoebes are very opposite, but they end up confiding in each other. Apparently it's kind of sad, a little bit funny. I feel like this is gonna be a really good read, and I cannot wait to read this because I feel like it's gonna be one of those books that I can recommend to anyone, whether or not you're new to reading or want to get into reading fiction books. This seems like the type of book that you can recommend to anyone in your life. So, okay, so that is my December TBR. These are just 5 books. Again, I need to read 8 to make it to my goal of 50 by the end of the year. So I'll probably add some more on, but I definitely think I'm gonna get to at least these 5 books this month. Oh, sorry. All right, that's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comments what book you loved the most from November, and 2, what book you want to read the most in December. I hope you have a great day. I will see you tomorrow for Vlogmas Day 4. Bye, guys. Mwah.